Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
The opposition leader responds to the release of that audit on the Water and Sewage Corporation.
The commissioner's policing plan tabled in the House of Assembly finds out how he plans to fight crime in 2018.
Our news is brought to you by Audit.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, opposition leader Philip Davis confirming that the secretary in his law firm is indeed a shareholder in a company awarded a $9.6 million contract by the Water and Sewage Corporation in 2013. However, the opposition leader says she receives no financial gain. This as Davis speaks out on the release of an audit into the corporation. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Davis said he's not concerned about the fact that he's named in this audit or that he will be named in future audits. He said neither is he concerned about the views people may have of him as a result. But he said in the future he would appreciate to be given the opportunity to at least respond before the audit is released.
Davis said he didn't know the secretary in his law firm, Rolene Poitier, was a nominee shareholder and only found out after the audit was tabled in Parliament on Wednesday. Following that revelation, Davis said he had a conversation with Poitier that night.
If you note, the company is a 5,000 share capital company with 4,999 being owned by Anthony L. Ferguson and one share in her name that she said she's a nominee, as the corporate laws require that there be at least two named shareholders on incorporation and to maintain the company.
However, he insisted that Poitier did not benefit financially from it, as it is practiced in the Bahamas for law firms to use the name of a person in the office as nominee shareholder, more like a trustee. The audit also points to two irregular payments to this company, Nassau Island Development, one for $1 million, which the permanent secretary in writing objected to.
We would have had discussions about this, and we would have said to them.
So you had concerns about that payment?
I had concerns about it because it was a troubled contract.
The Water and Sewage chairman, while revealing the findings of that audit, said it appears that company had a guardian angel in the corporation who prevented management at the corporation from terminating NID's contract. Davis responded to that as well.
I've been a guardian angel for many people, and I can say I've been a guardian angel for many of those who sit right opposite me now.
When asked why it was never terminated, Davis said there were a number of factors that he would have to refresh his memory on before he responded. This as the opposition leader questioned how much this audit into water and sewage costs. When asked, the Water and Sewage chairman wouldn't give a figure, telling reporters in due course. Regardless, Davis said the intention of the audit is questionable. This as the corporation's chairman apologized for the audit using the obituary of Davis's mother as proof that his law office's secretary is a friend of the family.
A lot of the information that they have alluded to could have been cleared up by a mere telephone call or a mere conversation with me. And I dare say I note some of the observations made in respect to Chester Cooper, and mere conversations with him. So what does this tell you about the approach of these audits? What was it designed to do?
Davis said he has no doubt the timing of this audit's release is designed to serve as a distraction from the controversy surrounding the Oban Energy's heads of agreement.
My only concern, and I continue to express, I join no issue with anyone forming a view or would comment about me. Right? The only thing I ask in forming the view or opinions or commenting about me is allow me to respond to the set of circumstances that will form your view, form your opinion, or upon which you will comment. I think that's only fair.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, as he tabled the long-awaited policing plan for 2018 today, Minister of National Security Marvin Dames slamming the former government's handling of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Jared Higgs reports.
Rundown police stations and inoperable vehicles. That's the state of affairs in the Royal Bahamas Police Force, according to Minister of National Security Marvin Dames. Contributing to the mid-year budget debate, Dames told his fellow parliamentarians that just a few months ago, less than a quarter of all police vehicles were fully operable.
In November of 2017, a fleet management report was conducted, which revealed that the Royal Bahamas Police Force is equipped with a total of 526 vehicles, of which 126 were operable, 139 experienced chronic repairs, so therefore that was in the garage more that was on the streets, and 273 vehicles were inoperable and incapable of being repaired. Succinctly, a mere 23% of its existing fleet is capable of performing police duties at optimal capacity.
A manpower audit also revealing the police force as being a top-heavy organization with a biased promotion process.
Preliminary findings also identified an oversaturations within the senior ranks, a lack of transparent and suitable protocols during the last 2 promotional exercises, the lack of a strategic recruitment and professional development plan to increase productivity.
Last April, 2 senior police officers were promoted to the rank of Deputy Commissioner, while the Assistant Commissioner was promoted to the rank of Senior Assistant Commissioner. Meanwhile, 10 Chief Superintendents were promoted to the rank of Assistant Commissioner, while 20 Superintendents were promoted to Chief Superintendents. Dames said on Thursday the police force is about to hire 100 new recruits, and there won't be any favoritism involved with the process.
Unlike our predecessors, who interfered incessantly in the recruitment process of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, our government has committed itself to be different. The recruitment process will not be driven by politics, sexism, or nepotism. Unlike years past, 21st century candidates will have to meet higher standards of eligibility and will have to successfully complete a battery of tests to be considered.
Electronic monitoring also won the proverbial chopping block as Dames blasted a system that he says suspects were easily able to take advantage of.
Prolific offenders, whom the bracelet were mostly designed for, have been able to tamper and disable these bracelets. One offender who fled from a vehicle being chased by the police was able to leave his ankle monitoring bracelet behind. Others who were supposed to be monitored were able to disable their bracelets, place them on their pets, and go out and commit crimes.
Now, the plan was supposed to be tabled at the beginning of the year, and when we asked Dames whether he felt that it was late being tabled in March, he said no, the Commissioner is just getting started, and in years past there have been no documents or plans tabled.
The Minister of National Security also accused the last Christie administration of mismanaging the $232 million Sandy Bottom project. Dames says while some vessels were purchased, the costs were not justified.
The former government failed to monitor the Sandy Bottom project effectively. As such, the original completion date of March 2016 had to be extended, and the remaining cost was unjustifiable. Hence, the cost of the remaining 6 buildings will now be paid out of the Defense Force's capital development budget over the next 2 budget cycles.
Dames says another issue was an increase in the scope of works.
The government agreed upon an option for the reclamation areas in the vicinity of the old hotel at the base that increased the Royal Bahamas Defense Force property footprint by 2.5 acres. This change in scope required the import of additional rocks from the Netherlands, which required additional time and money.
Well, a portion of the Freedom of Information Act was passed in the House of Assembly earlier this week, enacting legislation to protect whistleblowers. Well, Organization for Responsible Governance Executive Director Matt Aubrey says there's still a lack of specifics surrounding the legislation and how it will actually protect those who speak up.
This being put in place, the the clause that speaks to, or the section that speaks to this whistleblowers, is not very specific as to what happens when who you would report to, what would happen, what's put in place to protect you, and that's a challenge. Whistleblowers in the Caribbean region it's been an issue that folks have struggled with because we're a small developing island state, and everybody knows who knows what information.
Under Section 47 of the Freedom of Information Act, no person may be subject to any legal, administrative, or employment-related sanction, regardless of any breach of a legal or employment-related obligation for releasing information on wrongdoing. Wrongdoing includes, but is not limited to, the commission of a criminal offense, failure to comply with a legal obligation, miscarriage of justice or corruption, dishonesty, or serious maladministration. Aubrey says other small island nations, such as Trinidad, still struggle with how to protect whistleblowers.
Because practically they don't believe they can protect the identity or the rights of those folks who are going forward. And that fear of recrimination, even if the law says you're not able to be, that you're protected, is the issue I think we would need to work on.
Now, Aubrey says some elements of the FOIA have already been enacted, including a provision that allows for the appointment of an information commissioner. But there's still more to be done in terms of public education and breaking the culture of secrecy in the public service.
We haven't seen movement on these things yet, and there was very little monies allowed in last year's budget to indicate that, but this does indicate that there is some movement. There's a lot of other areas that obviously need to be enacted before you get there, but this, I think, is in recognition for what we see as a push to reduce corruption.
Well, as the Prime Minister prepares to address the controversy surrounding his government's heads of agreement with Oban Energies, a prominent attorney says there are a number of questions that the Prime Minister needs to answer. Vonique Toot reports.
Amid the political firestorm engulfing the multi-billion-dollar oil refinery project, attorney Wayne Monroe says the terms of that heads of agreement are far more frightening than the revelation that Oban's chair signed someone else's name on that document.
We already know from experience captured on camera that these fellas have no problem signing other people's names. So are we sure that this guy even signed the one that was tabled? But all of this shows a propensity, if not a propensity, going along with deception that is dangerous in such a project. And what the Bahamian people will see in the days going forward, that when you look at the terms of this heads of agreement, they're far more frightening than this whole debacle over a man who has pleaded guilty to fraud signing someone else's name.
A NASA Guardian video revealed that Oban chair Peter Krieger appeared to sign the name of Oban President Satpal Dunna and not his own during the heads of agreement signing for a $5.5 billion oil refinery project on Grand Bahama. However, that agreement was not the document tabled in Parliament by the Prime Minister last week.
The agreement that was tabled is dated that same day. And so if the president was in the Bahamas to sign, the question would be why the need to have the press conference at the time that it was had.
The heads of agreement has been the subject of heavy criticism in recent weeks as it was signed before the completion of an environmental impact assessment. Monroe accused the government of putting the cart before the horse.
You don't know what the environmental impact assessment will say, but you agree that you can't cancel the contract, and they don't have to eliminate adverse impacts, they just have to mitigate them. And you don't know what their environmental management plan is because they don't have to produce it until after the EIA. And you don't know what their safety procedures are for an incident on sea or on land because they don't have to produce those either.
Environmental group Brief has also raised concerns about the terms of that HOA, which prevents the government from terminating the agreement based upon any EIA report. The group asserted this puts the lives and livelihoods of Bahamians at risk.
That is the most troubling part. The people of Grand Bahama, East Grand Bahama, and of the Bahamas surely have to have a say on is the risk that we run worth 480 jobs doing construction, which is 80% of 600, and is it worth 160 permanent jobs? Because we're not getting any taxes from this, not even real property tax. So that is what we get, because the product is bought in duty-free, VAT-free.
Monroe says this heads of agreement is unlike any other HOA he has seen before. Reporting for our News, I'm Vonique Tude.
Still to come on our News, the Democratic National Alliance leader calls for the OBAN deal to be canceled. That and more when our News returns.